I didn't fight back. I didn't argue. When my son David shoved me against the barn door and his wife Amanda grabbed my walker and threw it into the snow, I just stood there. My ribs were screaming where I'd hit the wood, and I could taste blood in my mouth. But I looked David straight in the eye and said 5 words. Stage 1 is complete. The confusion on his face was almost worth the pain. Amanda stopped mid-scream, her hand still raised like she was about to strike me again. For a moment, the only sound was the Montana wind howling across my ranch and the distant lowing of cattle in the far pasture. "What did you just say?" David's voice was quieter now, uncertain. I smiled. It hurt to smile, but I did it anyway. Then I reached into my coat pocket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out my phone. Not to call 911. That's what they expected. That's what a frightened old man would do. Instead, I called Marcus Webb, my attorney of 32 years. "Marcus," I said, my voice steady despite the cold and the pain. "It's Robert. They took the bait. Send everything to the federal investigators. We have them." Let me back up. Let me tell you how a decorated Marine who survived 2 tours in Vietnam ended up standing in the snow on Christmas Eve, bleeding from his own son's violence, and calling it Stage 1. 6 months earlier, everything seemed normal. Well, as normal as things can be when you're 64 years old, living alone on a 300-acre ranch in Big Sky country, and your only child lives 2,000 miles away in Seattle. David had always been distant. After his mother, Mylinda, passed from cancer 8 years ago, the distance grew. He visited maybe twice a year, always with Amanda, always rushing through meals like he had somewhere better to be. I understood. People build their own lives. I'd built mine here on this ranch, breaking horses and running cattle, living off my military pension and the land my grandfather bought in 1947. The ranch wasn't worth millions, but it was worth something. Prime Montana real estate, water rights, mineral rights, the kind of thing developers drool over. The first hint of trouble came in June, David called, which was unusual. We normally texted, brief exchanges about holidays or birthdays. But this call, his voice had something in it I hadn't heard since he was a teenager, asking to borrow the truck. "Dad, we need to talk about your future." I was mending fence in the south pasture when he called. I stopped, wire cutters in hand, watching the sun paint the mountains gold. "What about my future? You're getting older. That ranch is a lot of work. Amanda and I have been talking, and we think it might be time to consider transitioning." Transitioning. Corporate speak for, "Give us what's yours." Transitioning to what? I kept my voice neutral. "You learned that in the Marines. Never show your hand." "Well, we found this assisted living facility. Beautiful place, Dad. In Billings. They have activities, medical staff on site, other veterans. You'd love it." I wouldn't love it. I'd die there, slowly, watching TV in a common room, eating institutional food, waiting for the end. But I didn't say that. "I'll think about it," I said. "That's great, Dad. Actually, Amanda and I were thinking we could come out for Thanksgiving, have a real conversation about this, face to face." Something cold settled in my gut. Not the wind, not the altitude. Instinct. The same instinct that kept me alive in the jungle when I was younger than David is now. "Sure," I said. "Thanksgiving sounds good." After we hung up, I stood in that pasture for a long time. My mare, Sadie, came over and nuzzled my shoulder like she knew something was wrong. I scratched her neck and thought about my father. He'd warned me before he died. "Robert, people change when money's involved. Even family. Especially family. Watch yourself." I'd never thought David would be that way. But then again, I'd been wrong before. Over the next few months, things escalated slowly. David started calling more often. Each conversation circled back to the ranch, my age, my limitations. He mentioned my knee, the one I injured in '68 that still aches when it rains. He brought up the time last winter when I slipped on ice and Mrs. Patterson, my neighbor, found me and helped me inside. "See, Dad? That's exactly what we're worried about. What if Mrs. Patterson hadn't been there? What if you'd frozen to death?" "But she was there," I said. "And I didn't freeze. This time. But next time, if there's a next time, I'll deal with it." The calls became weekly. Then, bi-weekly, Amanda joined sometimes, her voice sugary sweet, talking about how much they worried about me, how they wanted to help, how they'd found a buyer interested in ranch properties, just in case I wanted to explore options. That's when I knew for certain. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about their inheritance. I'm not stupid. I'm not some confused old man who doesn't understand what's happening. I spent 20 years in the Corps, working intelligence for the last 10. I know when I'm being maneuvered. I know when someone's running a con. So I called Marcus Webb. Marcus and I go back to high school. He was the smart kid who became a lawyer. I was the troublemaker who became a Marine. But we stayed friends, and when Linda and I needed legal help over the years, wills, property transfers, business contracts, Marcus handled everything. Marcus, I need your expertise on something. We met at his office in Helena. I laid out everything, the calls, the pressure, the sudden concern for my well-being. Marcus listened, making notes on his yellow legal pad like he'd been doing since 1985. Robert, what exactly do you think they're planning? I think they want me to sign over power of attorney. Maybe the ranch itself. I think they'll use my age, my military injury, maybe even try to claim I'm not competent. Then they'll sell the property, stick me somewhere cheap, and pocket the difference. Marcus tapped his pen against the pad. That's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? Not yet. But I will. What are you planning? I told him. He looked at me for a long moment, then slowly smiled. Robert, you devious son of a bitch. That might actually work. It will work. I just need you ready when it does. We spent the next 2 months preparing. Marcus drew up documents, real ones and fake ones. The fake ones gave David power of attorney and listed Amanda as secondary beneficiary of my estate. The real ones placed everything in an irrevocable trust with my niece, Sarah Linda's brother's daughter, as trustee. Sarah was a good kid, a veterinarian in Bozeman. She checked on me monthly, helped with the horses, never asked for anything. Marcus also connected me with an investigator named Patricia Reeves. Patricia was former FBI, now private sector, specializing in elder fraud cases. She was particularly interested in cases involving veterans, since federal benefits fraud carried serious penalties. Mr. Mitchell, what you're describing fits a pattern we've seen increasing over the last decade, Patricia said during our first meeting. Adult children creating financial emergencies or questioning competency to gain access to assets. With veterans, sometimes they target disability benefits or pension payments. So this is common, more than you'd think. The problem is proving intent. Most cases look like concerned family members legitimately trying to help. Unless we can demonstrate clear fraud or coercion, it's hard to prosecute. What if I gave them the opportunity to demonstrate clear fraud? Patricia studied me. You want to set them up. I want to give them a choice, I corrected. My son can choose to be honest, to actually care about my welfare, or he can choose to show his true colors. I just want to make sure that if he chooses wrong, there are consequences. Patricia nodded slowly. If we do this, we do it by the book. Everything documented, everything legal. I'll need recordings, witnesses, paper trails. Can you handle that? I'm 64, not dead. Yes, I can handle it. Thanksgiving was the test. The setup. Stage 1. David and Amanda arrived 2 days before the holiday. I picked them up at Bozeman Airport, driving my old Ford pickup with the heater that barely worked. Amanda complained about the cold the entire 90-minute drive back to the ranch. David sat in the passenger seat, quiet, watching the landscape roll past. So, Dad, have you thought more about what we discussed? The assisted living situation? I've thought about it. And I'm thinking about it. The tension was immediate. I could feel Amanda bristling in the back seat, but I kept my eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. At the ranch, I'd prepared everything. The documents Marcus created were in my desk drawer. The recording devices Patricia provided were hidden in the living room, kitchen, and my bedroom. Small, professional-grade equipment that looked like phone chargers or decorative items. That first night, we had dinner. I made pot roast, Linda's recipe. Amanda picked at her food and scrolled through her phone. David made small talk about Seattle, about his job in tech sales, about housing prices. Speaking of housing, he said, too casually, Amanda and I have been looking at properties, investments. You know, the market's crazy right now. Is that right? Yeah. Actually, we've been thinking, Dad, what's this ranch worth, realistically? I set down my fork. You asking as my son or as an investor? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. I'm just curious. You've been here, what, 40 years? The land value must have increased significantly. It has. So if you were to sell, I'm not selling, but if you were, hypothetically, I looked at him across the table. My son, Linda's boy, the kid I taught to ride a horse, to throw a football, to change oil in a truck. When did he become this person? Hypothetically, I said slowly. This ranch is worth whatever someone's willing to pay. Could be $500,000. Could be $2 million. Depends on the buyer, the market, the terms. Amanda's head snapped up from her phone. $2 million. I'd seen that look before, in card games and business deals. The look of someone calculating odds. The next day, Thanksgiving, things escalated. David suggested we take care of some paperwork before dinner. He had documents, he said, just standard stuff. Power of attorney forms, in case something happened to me. Healthcare directives, financial planning documents. Marcus Webb already handles all that, I said. Sure, but Marcus is getting old too, Dad. You need backup plans, redundancies. That's just smart. We were in my office, a small room off the living room where I kept ranch records and family photos. David spread papers across my desk. I glanced at them. They were legitimate forms, properly formatted, but the details were wrong. These weren't backup plans. These were transfer documents. David, these forms give you complete control of my assets. Only if something happens to you. It's just being prepared. And if nothing happens to me, then nothing changes. But Dad, you're 64. You have a military injury. Last winter you fell. These things happen. We just want to make sure you're protected. Protected. That word again. Amanda appeared in the doorway. Robert, dinner's almost ready. Maybe you two can finish this later? No, David said, not looking at her. Let's finish it now. Dad, just sign these. It's for your own good. My own good. Yes. I picked up the papers, pretended to read them carefully. The recorder in the desk lamp was running. Patricia would have everything. But I needed more. I needed them to reveal intent. What if I say no? David's jaw tightened. Why would you say no? We're trying to help you. By taking control of my property? By making sure you're taken care of when you can't take care of yourself anymore. I'm taking care of myself just fine. Are you? Amanda stepped fully into the room. Her voice had changed. The sweetness was gone. You're alone out here, Robert. You're getting older. Your knee is shot. Last winter, you could have died. What happens next winter? Or the winter after that? I manage. You manage until you don't, David said. And then what? You want to end up like those old guys we see on the news, dead in their homes for weeks before anyone finds them? That won't happen. You don't know that, David's voice rose. You don't know anything. You're stubborn and proud, and you won't accept help when it's offered. Help? I kept my voice level. This isn't help, David. This is you trying to take what's mine before I'm dead. The silence that followed was profound. Amanda's face went pale. David's went red. How dare you, he said quietly. How dare you accuse me? I'm not accusing. I'm observing. You want this ranch. You want whatever money's attached to it. Fine. I understand. But don't dress it up as concern. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this is about my welfare. David stood abruptly, his chair scraping loud against the hardwood. You know what? Maybe we should go. Maybe we should just leave you out here alone, since you obviously don't want our help. Maybe you should. Amanda grabbed David's arm. Baby, wait. Let's not. No. David shook her off. I'm done. I've tried. I've tried to be patient, to be understanding, but he won't listen. He's determined to make this difficult. They left my office. I heard them in the kitchen, voices low and angry. I stayed at my desk, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The confrontation had gone exactly as Patricia predicted. Pressure, guilt, anger when I resisted. Stage 1 was working. We ate Thanksgiving dinner in silence. The turkey was dry, the stuffing tasteless. Amanda excused herself early, claiming a headache. David sat across from me, jaw clenched, saying nothing. After dinner, I went to bed early. Through the walls, I could hear them in the guest room, arguing, planning. I couldn't make out words, but I didn't need to. I knew what was coming. The next morning, Friday, David approached me differently, conciliatory, almost apologetic. Dad, I'm sorry about yesterday. I let my frustration get the better of me. It's all right. No, it's not. You're right. This is your property, your decision. I shouldn't have pushed. We were in the barn. I was feeding the horses. Something I did every morning, regardless of weather, age, or knee pain. David stood in the doorway, hands in his jacket pockets, breath misting in the cold. I appreciate that. But Dad, I do worry, genuinely. Not about the ranch or money, about you, about your safety. I know. So, maybe we can compromise. You don't have to sign anything big, just let me help with some things. Banking, maybe. Bills, just so if something happens, there's someone who can step in quickly. This was it. The softer approach, the reasonable compromise that wasn't a compromise at all. What kind of help are we talking about? Maybe adding me to your bank account. Just as a co-signer. You'd still have complete control. I'd just be there as backup. Marcus already has power of attorney for financial emergencies. But Marcus is in Helena. I can access things remotely, faster. Dad, I'm just trying to make things easier. I looked at my son, really looked at him, searching for the boy who used to help me fix fence, who cried when his first horse died, who hugged me so tight the day he left for college. Was that person still in there? Or had something essential changed? Let me think about it, I said. His face brightened. Really? Really? Give me the weekend. I'll give you an answer Monday. That weekend was crucial. While David and Amanda explored Bozeman, allegedly shopping and sightseeing, I met with Patricia and Marcus. We reviewed the recordings, David's statements, Amanda's reactions, the escalating pressure. It's good, Patricia said, but it's not enough. We need them to make an overt move. Right now, this could still be argued as legitimate concern. What do you need? I need them to demonstrate clear criminal intent. Forgery, fraud, coercion. Something unambiguous. What if I give them the opportunity? Marcus frowned. Robert, what are you thinking? What if I tell David I'll sign something? But I want to review it with Marcus first. If they're planning something illegal, they'll need to act before I can get legal review. They'll have to force the issue. Patricia considered this. That could work. But Robert, if they get violent, I can handle myself. Against your son and his wife? What if they hurt you? Then you'll have them for assault in addition to fraud. Look, Patricia, I need to know. I need to know for certain whether my son is really gone, or if there's still some part of him that's decent. This will force that answer. Monday morning, I told David I'd thought about it. I was willing to sign some documents, banking access, maybe. But I wanted Marcus to review everything first, just to be safe. David's face went through several emotions. Relief, frustration, something harder to read. Of course, Dad. That's smart. When can you meet with Marcus? He's available Thursday, after you and Amanda fly back to Seattle. Thursday? Amanda said sharply. She'd been quiet all morning, but now her voice had an edge. Why wait until Thursday? That's when he's available. Can't he make time sooner? This is important. It's important, but it's not an emergency. David and Amanda exchanged a look. I saw the moment they made their decision. I'd seen that look in Vietnam, right before an ambush. The look of people committing to violence. Dad, actually, I think we should handle this now, before we leave. I don't want to leave things uncertain. Marcus isn't available now. Then we'll do it without Marcus. You trust me, right? Of course I trust you. The lie tasted like ash. Then let's just take care of it. Amanda and I are flying out tomorrow. Let's sign the papers tonight, and then Marcus can review everything later. If he finds any issues, we'll We'll fix them. But at least the basics will be done. I don't know, David. Please, Dad. For my peace of mind. Just sign the papers. His voice had changed again. The gentleness was gone. This was demand, not request. Let me think about it. That evening, I made sure I was obvious about my routine. I told them I had to check the cattle in the far pasture before dark, something I did every Monday regardless of weather. I'd be gone about an hour. I left my phone on the kitchen counter, left the documents on my desk. I wanted to see what they'd do when they thought I wasn't watching. Mrs. Patterson was waiting in her truck at the property line. Patricia Reeves was with her. We'd arranged this days ago. While I was checking cattle, they'd monitor the house via the hidden cameras, watch David and Amanda in real time. You're sure about this? Mrs. Patterson asked. She'd been my neighbor for 30 years, knew me almost as well as Linda had. Robert, if they hurt you, they won't get the chance. We watched on Patricia's laptop. The cameras provided clear audio and video. David and Amanda waited maybe 5 minutes after I left before they started. This is it, Amanda said. He's stalling. He's going to back out. He said he'd think about it. He's been thinking about it for 6 months. David, we need this property. The Seattle house is underwater. Your company is downsizing. We need this money now, not next year or 5 years from now when he finally dies. I felt something break inside me hearing that. When he finally dies, like she was waiting, like they both were. David was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you want me to do? Make him sign. Tonight. Before he talks to that lawyer? How? He's not going to just sign without Marcus reviewing it. So we make him sign without Marcus. Amanda. David, listen to me. Your father is old. He's injured. Everyone knows he's been struggling. What if he had an accident? What if he fell, got confused, signed papers without really understanding what they were? Who would question that? I watched my son's face on that screen. Watched him process what his wife was suggesting. This was the moment. The choice. He could shut her down, could refuse, could prove that somewhere inside him was still the boy I raised. He didn't. How would we do that? His voice was quiet, defeated, or maybe just committed. We wait for him to come back. He'll be cold, tired. We give him something. Sleeping pills, maybe. Mix them with whiskey. When he's groggy, confused, we have him sign. By the time he realizes what happened, we'll be back in Seattle and the papers will be filed. That's drugging him. That's illegal. Only if someone finds out. And who's going to find out? Your father lives alone. He's old. If he claims we drugged him, who'll believe it? We'll say he was confused, misremembering. We'll say his age is showing. That's actually perfect. It'll support our case that he needs help managing his affairs. The silence stretched. Then David nodded. I looked at Patricia. Her face was hard. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Possibly assault if they forcibly drug him. I've got everything recorded. The question is, do you still want to go through with this? I have to, I said. I have to know if he'll actually do it. When I returned to the house an hour later, they were waiting. The fire was going, whiskey was poured, and they were both smiling. Normal. Like nothing had happened. Dad, there you are. It's freezing out there. Come get warm. I played my part, took off my coat, sat by the fire, accepted the whiskey David handed me. I didn't drink it. When they weren't looking, I poured it into the plant beside my chair, but I pretended to drink, pretended to feel it warming me. So, Dad, Amanda and I were talking. You're right. We've been pushing too hard. This is your property, your decision. I appreciate you understanding. But since we're here, and since you said you'd think about it, maybe we could just look at the documents together? No pressure. Just look. David spread papers across the coffee table. I recognized the power of attorney forms, the bank authorization forms, but there were new ones too. Property transfer documents, estate modifications. David, these are more than we discussed. I know. But Dad, listen. These just protect everyone. If something happens to you, this makes sure everything transitions smoothly. No probate, no legal fights. It's all clean. This transfers ownership of the ranch to you immediately. Only on paper. You'd still live here, still run things. This is just legal protection. I looked at the papers, looked at my son. Amanda was leaning forward, eager, hungry. David looked sick, but determined. This was the moment I'd engineered. The test. The choice. I need to think about this. Dad. I need to think. I started to stand. My knee genuinely hurt. I wasn't faking that. 64 years, military injury, Montana winter. Everything hurt. David grabbed my arm. Dad, please, just sign it. Don't make this difficult. Let go of me. Not until you sign. Amanda stood. David's right, Robert. This has gone on long enough. Sign the papers. No. That's when Amanda moved. Fast. Aggressive. She grabbed the papers, thrust them at me. Sign them. You stubborn old man. Just sign them. I pushed her away. Not hard, just defensive. But she was ready for it. She stumbled backward, theatrical, and screamed like I'd attacked her. David, he hit me. Your father hit me. David's face changed. Whatever hesitation had been there vanished. He shoved me. Hard. I went backward into the chair, then onto the floor. Pain exploded in my hip, my ribs. You don't hit my wife, David was yelling. You don't get to treat us like this. I tried to stand. David pushed me down again. Amanda grabbed my walker, the one I used when my knee was bad, and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a metallic crash. You're going to sign these papers, Amanda said, standing over me. One way or another. We can do this easy, or we can do it hard. But those papers are getting signed tonight. I looked up at them. My son and his wife. Backlit by the fire, faces twisted with greed and anger. I thought about Linda, about what she'd say if she could see this, about how this wasn't the life we'd planned. And I smiled. Stage 1 is complete, I said. That's when I called Marcus. When the confusion hit their faces. When I could see them realizing they'd made a mistake. Marcus answered on the first ring. Robert? Marcus? It's Robert. They took the bait. Send everything to the federal investigators. We have them. What the hell are you talking about? David's voice was shrill now, panicked. I stayed on the floor. The cameras were recording. Patricia was watching. Everything was documented. David, did you really think I didn't know? Did you think I'd just hand over everything my family built because you wanted it? Amanda's face went white. You recorded us. I recorded everything. Every call, every conversation, every moment since you arrived. The investigator has it all. The conspiracy to drug me, the plan to forge my signature, the assault just now, all of it. You can't do that. That's entrapment. No, it's not. I didn't encourage you to commit crimes. I just gave you the opportunity. You made your choices. David sank onto the couch like his legs couldn't hold him. Dad, we didn't mean. Yes, you did. You meant every word, every action. You chose this, David. Both of you. The sheriff arrived 20 minutes later. Not because of assault, though that was part of it, but because Patricia had contacted federal investigators that afternoon. Elder fraud, attempted theft of veteran benefits, conspiracy to commit fraud, federal crimes, federal jurisdiction. Sheriff Tom Patterson, no relation to my neighbor, different spelling, read them their rights while they sat on my couch. Miranda warnings in my living room. David was crying. Amanda was silent, face hard. Mr. Mitchell, do you need medical attention? Sheriff Patterson asked. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I touched my face. My hand came away red. I hadn't even noticed. I'm fine, I repeated. They arrested David and Amanda that night. Took them from my ranch in handcuffs while snow started to fall. Through the window, I watched the police car lights fade down my driveway, red and blue mixing with white snow, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just emptiness. Mrs. Patterson stayed with me that night, made coffee, helped me clean up the blood. Didn't say much, which I appreciated. Words felt inadequate. Did you know, she asked finally, that it would go this far? I hoped it wouldn't. I hoped David would choose differently. That's why I set it up this way, to give him chances, multiple chances to do the right thing, and he chose wrong every time. He did. She squeezed my shoulder. I'm sorry, Robert. Me too. The federal investigation moved quickly. With the recordings, the documented conspiracy, and Amanda's explicit discussion of drugging me, the case was straightforward. Patricia Reeves worked with federal prosecutors. Marcus handled my end, making sure the real estate trust remained secure. The trial was 3 months later. I sat in that federal courtroom in Billings and watched my son's defense attorney argue that David was manipulated by Amanda, that he'd been trying to protect me in his own misguided way, that this was a family disagreement that got out of hand. The prosecutor presented the recordings. David's voice, clear and unmistakable. How would we do that? In response to Amanda's plan. His hands pushing me down. His silence when Amanda suggested drugging me. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Elder fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, assault. Amanda got 7 years. David got 5. With credit for cooperation, he'd testified against Amanda, tried to minimize his role. I didn't speak at sentencing. The judge asked if I wanted to address the court. I shook my head. What was there to say? That I was disappointed? That I'd lost my son years before he ever pushed me in that living room? That I wished things had been different? All of that was true. None of it mattered. After the trial, I drove back to the ranch alone. The property was quiet. Spring was coming. The cattle needed attention. The fence needed repair. Life continued, indifferent to personal tragedy. Sarah, my niece, called that evening. Uncle Robert? I heard about the verdict. Yes. How are you holding up? I'm holding. You did the right thing. You know that, right? You protected yourself. You protected your legacy. I know, but it doesn't feel right. No, it doesn't. We talked for a while. About nothing important. About her veterinary practice. About the foal one of my mares was carrying. About the weather. Normal things. The things that matter when everything else falls apart. People ask me sometimes if I regret it. If I wish I'd handled it differently. The answer is complicated. Do I regret giving David chances? No. I'm his father. That's what fathers do. We give chances. We hope. We believe in redemption even when evidence suggests we shouldn't. Do I regret documenting everything? Working with investigators? Building a legal case? No. Because I'm not just a father. I'm a man who built something. Who served his country. Who promised his wife on her deathbed that I'd protect what we'd built together. I had responsibilities beyond just being David's dad. Do I regret that it came to this? Every single day. The ranch is quieter now. Sarah visits weekly. Mrs. Patterson checks on me daily. I'm 65 now, a year older, a year more worn. My knee still hurts when it rains. I still feed the horses every morning. I still mend fence in the south pasture. David writes sometimes from prison, brief letters, apologetic at first, then angry, then apologetic again. I don't respond. I don't know what I'd say. Marcus advised me that any communication could complicate the legal situation, but that's not really why I don't write back. I don't write back because I'm still grieving. Not for the man David became, but for the boy he was. For the son I thought I had. For the relationship I thought we shared. That person doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. Maybe I just saw what I wanted to see. That's the hardest part. Not the physical assault, not the betrayal, not the legal battle. The hardest part is realizing I didn't really know my own son. That somewhere between teaching him to ride a horse and watching him get arrested, I'd lost track of who he was. Or maybe I'd never really known. Linda would have handled this differently. She was always better with David. More patient, more understanding. She would have seen the warning signs earlier, would have intervened before it reached this point. But Linda's gone, and I did the best I could with what I had. The trust is secure. The ranch will go to Sarah when I die. She'll run it better than I did, probably. She loves the land the way I do, understands the animals, respects the work. It's not the legacy I imagined grandchildren running in these pastures, David eventually taking over, but it's the legacy I have. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that moment in the living room. When David pushed me down and I said those 5 words, "Stage 1 is complete." I think about the look on his face, the confusion, the dawning realization that he'd been played. I don't take pleasure in it. But I don't regret it either. Because here's what I learned, both in Vietnam and in Montana. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought with weapons. They're fought with patience, with planning, with the wisdom to see what's really happening beneath the surface. I didn't win because I was stronger than David and Amanda. I won because I saw them clearly, because I understood what they were planning before they fully understood it themselves, because I was willing to give them enough rope to hang themselves. That's not revenge. Revenge is emotional, impulsive, destructive. What I did was justice. Cold, calculated, necessary justice. People sometimes treat the elderly like we're stupid, like age has made us naive or helpless or easy to manipulate. That's a mistake. Age doesn't make you stupid. It makes you experienced. It teaches you to recognize patterns, to see through bullshit, to understand human nature in ways young people can't. David and Amanda thought they were clever, thought their plan was sophisticated, thought I was too old, too injured, too isolated to see what they were doing. They were wrong, on all counts. I'm 65 years old. My knee hurts. My hands shake sometimes in the cold. I can't lift hay bales the way I used to, can't ride as long as I once could. But my mind is sharp. My instincts are honed, and my ability to protect what matters hasn't diminished at all. That's what I want people to understand. The physical body ages, fails, weakens, but the essential self, the person you are at your core, that doesn't fade unless you let it. I'm still the Marine who survived Vietnam, still the rancher who built this property from nothing, still Linda's husband, still committed to honoring her memory. Age hasn't changed any of that. If there's a lesson in all this, it's simple. Don't underestimate people because they're old. Don't assume weakness because of age or injury. And most importantly, don't mistake patience for passivity. Sometimes the most dangerous opponents are the ones who wait, who watch, who let you dig your own grave before they show their hand. David and Amanda learned that lesson the hard way. I learned a harder one. Sometimes the people you love most are the ones who'll hurt you deepest. Sometimes family isn't about blood, it's about loyalty, respect, genuine care. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go of who you hoped someone would be and accept who they actually are. The sun's setting now over the mountains. The sky's turning that particular shade of purple gold that only happens in Montana. Sadie's waiting by the barn for her evening feed. Life continues. The ranch continues. I continue. Tomorrow I'll mend fence, check cattle, maybe ride out to the far pasture where Linda and I used to have picnics in summer. Maybe I'll sit in that spot and remember better times. Times when David was young, when family meant something, when the future looked different than it does now. But tonight, I'm just an old man in an old house, making coffee and feeding horses and living the life I've built. It's not the life I imagined, but it's mine, and I protected it. That has to count for something. Stage 1 was exposing the betrayal. Stage 2 was legal justice. Stage 3 is learning to live with what remains, to find peace in solitude, to understand that sometimes winning means losing something you can't replace. I'm working on stage 3. Some days are harder than others, but I'm still here, still standing, still protecting what matters. And that, I suppose, is its own kind of victory.